I have walked through the labyrinth of the human soul long enough to know this. The most dangerous masks are not worn by strangers, but by those who call themselves friends. A man who shines like the sun, yet inside he is a hollow idol, devouring admiration like water poured into a bottomless pit. And another, quiet, listening, even weeping with you, yet each tear is calculated, each sigh a trap. Do you not see the betrayal? The narcissist burns you with fire. The dark empath dissolves you with acid. One demands your applause, the other steals your soul by comforting you. I confess, both are reflections of us all, for who among us has not once gloried too much in praise or used another's wound for advantage? Here lies the guilty verdict. They live in exile from authenticity, worshippers of illusion, crucified on their own hunger. Yet survival is possible. To recognize their masks, to stand without craving applause or counterfeit intimacy. This is freedom, and only then can you reclaim your own soul from their shadows. I begin with a question that gnaws at the soul. What kind of mind hides behind the polished mask of charm, power, and empathy that is not empathy at all? What separates the one who loves himself too much from the one who feels too much yet twists that feeling into a weapon? Inside these two figures, the narcissist and the dark empath, there exists a mirror of humanity's deepest paradoxes. One is a hollow idol demanding worship. The other is a priest of shadows, cloaked in sensitivity but guided by cruelty. To understand the difference is to peer into the labyrinth of our own psyche, for I too am implicated in the dance of pride, pain, and power. The narcissist steps forward first. He is the child who never stopped screaming for the mother's gaze, the youth who built a throne from the applause of others, the man who cannot survive without the mirror reflecting back an image of greatness. His tragedy is his addiction. He must feed upon admiration, yet he never digests it. He swallows praise as if it were water poured into a bottomless pit. To the outsider he appears strong, yet his strength is a fragile shell. The moment admiration ceases, his power collapses and rage erupts. He is both conqueror and beggar, commanding armies yet enslaved by the need for validation. And then the dark empath arrives. Unlike the narcissist, he listens. He watches. He feels your pain, but not to heal it. His gift is perception, the delicate tuning to emotional frequencies, yet his purpose is manipulation. He will cry with you, but the tear is calculated. He will offer you comfort, but the comfort is laced with poison. He survives not by demanding worship, but by earning trust, only to exploit it. The dark empath is the wolf disguised not in sheep's clothing, but in the very fabric of your heart's vulnerability. Why are these figures so dangerous? Because they represent two extremes of the same human condition, the longing to be seen and the desire to control. Every man carries within him a seed of narcissism, for without self-regard one would wither into dust. Every man also possesses the capacity to feel another's sorrow, to resonate with it. But when either seed is poisoned by fear, trauma, or insatiable hunger for dominance, then the flower that blooms is not beauty but distortion. I recall what my friend Sigmund Freud observed. The ego is never content. It must constantly negotiate between instinct and morality, between the id's wild cries and the superego's stern hand. The narcissist resolves this by declaring the self supreme, drowning out all voices until only his own matters. The dark empath, by contrast, turns the conflict outward. He becomes an actor of morality, a mimic of compassion, while his id whispers strategies of control. Thus, both figures evade true authenticity, for neither dares to stand naked in front of the abyss. But let us not rush. Before I continue dissecting, I must bring you into the theater of psychology where these roles play out. Imagine the narcissist in a conversation. His words are not dialogue but monologue, each phrase polished to highlight his glory. If you praise him, he glows like a sun. If you criticize, he crumbles into fury or icy disdain. His emotions swing like a pendulum, yet the axis never leaves the self. He cannot see you, for you are merely a reflection of his worth. The world is his mirror hall. Now shift the scene to the dark empath. He does not fill the room with grandiosity. Instead, he enters quietly, his eyes drinking in your posture, your tone, your hesitation. He nods as you speak, he sighs at your pain, he appears as the companion you long for. But behind this theater lies a ledger. He calculates what you reveal, how he can use it, when to press the wound and when to soothe it. His mastery is not dominance through noise, but dominance through intimacy. He wins not by demanding the throne, but by convincing you to invite him onto it. Do you see the distinction? The narcissist devours admiration. The dark empath harvests trust. The first is crude in his hunger, the second is refined. Both, however, are parasites of the soul. My friend Carl Jung wrote of the shadow, the hidden self that carries all that is unacknowledged within us. The narcissist denies his shadow entirely. He projects it onto others. He will call them weak, foolish, unworthy, all the while denying his own fear of insignificance. The dark empath, however, embraces the shadow but makes a covenant with it. He cultivates it, polishes it, and uses it as a weapon. Thus, while the narcissist is blind to his darkness, the dark empath becomes darkness incarnate. But do not misunderstand me. These are not mythical monsters roaming outside humanity. They are distortions of our own potential. Have you never felt the rush when others admired you? Have you never, even once, subtly used another's vulnerability to gain advantage? The difference lies not in kind, but in degree. When these tendencies dominate, when they become identity itself, the man ceases to be authentic. He becomes a performance, a mask fused to his flesh. Now let me tell you why people confuse the two. The narcissist often appears charming at first. He knows how to shine, how to dazzle with confidence, how to intoxicate with promises of greatness. But his charm is brittle, it cracks the moment you withhold admiration. The dark empath, however, appears deeper. He listens where the narcissist talks. He remembers your stories. He shares your sorrows. Thus, you may trust him more, even love him more. But this is precisely the trap. The narcissist may wound you through neglect or rage, but the dark empath wounds you by using your very soul as leverage. Let us wander deeper into their inner landscapes. Inside the narcissist lies a child abandoned at the altar of love. Somewhere in his history, admiration became survival. He discovered that if he shined brighter, he would not be left alone. Thus, his identity became a fortress of mirrors, reflecting only what sustains him. Yet inside there is fear. Fear of being ordinary, fear of being unseen. His cruelty is not deliberate calculation, it is desperation disguised as arrogance. Inside the dark empath, the story is different. Here lies a man who learned not only to feel but to weaponize feeling. He too may have been wounded, perhaps neglected, perhaps betrayed, but instead of demanding attention, he studied it. He learned that empathy is a key, and that most doors of the human soul open when you appear to care. His cruelty is deliberate. It is artistry. He strikes not in rage, but in precision, enjoying the power of invisibility, because his victims often do not realize the manipulation until much later. Both figures teach us about survival strategies turned pathological. For the narcissist, survival is performance. For the dark empath, survival is disguise. One cannot exist without the stage, the other thrives behind the curtain, and yet both are deeply afraid of true intimacy. The narcissist fears being exposed as ordinary, the dark empath fears being exposed as malicious. Thus, both live in exile from authenticity, wandering forever through illusions. Why, you may ask, should we care about such distinctions? Because to navigate life one must recognize masks when they appear. To confuse the narcissist with the dark empath is to underestimate danger. With the narcissist, the danger is often obvious after some time. His rage, his arrogance, his entitlement, they reveal themselves. But with the dark empath, danger comes as a whisper, a slow erosion of your boundaries, until one day you find yourself a puppet with invisible strings. If one teaches you the brutality of hunger, the other teaches you the subtlety of poison. I recall how my friend Machiavelli wrote of rulers. It is better to be feared than loved if one cannot be both. The narcissist chooses love, or rather admiration, as his fuel, though when it fails, he lashes into fear. The dark empath chooses both simultaneously. He makes you feel loved and feared in hidden ways, often without you recognizing the fear until it paralyzes you. This is why the dark empath is often more dangerous than the narcissist. His cruelty is cloaked in kindness, his tyranny in tenderness. Consider now the psychological research of our age. Studies in personality disorders reveal that narcissism often correlates with high self-reported confidence but low underlying self-esteem. It is a fragile grandiosity. Meanwhile, research on empathy shows that emotional intelligence can be weaponized. Those who score high in recognizing emotions are not always benevolent. Sometimes, they are better manipulators. Thus, the scientific lens confirms what the philosophical lens has long suspected. The ability to perceive feelings does not guarantee the desire to nurture them. And so I ask you, which mask do you fear more? The one who demands your applause or the one who weeps with you while secretly sharpening a knife? Do not answer too quickly, for the truth is, most of us fall prey more easily to the latter. The narcissist at least reveals himself eventually. The dark empath thrives precisely because he looks like what you most need: a friend, a lover, a confidant. The betrayal cuts deeper because it uses your longing for connection as the very instrument of your enslavement. Yet let me not end this first reflection in despair, for within every shadow lies a call to awareness. If you learn to see the patterns, if you refuse to abandon your own self-respect, if you cultivate a clear eye toward both admiration and intimacy, then you cannot be so easily trapped. The narcissist's hunger will tire you, yes, but you will recognize it as hunger, not greatness. The dark empath's tears may move you, but you will learn to test their substance, to discern whether comfort offered is genuine or strategy. In this vigilance, you reclaim your freedom. What is the cost of living behind such masks? To answer, I must dissect not only the effect on the victims but also the torment within these figures themselves. The narcissist and the dark empath both appear powerful, yet each is haunted by his own prison. They are rulers who cannot abdicate their thrones, prisoners who cannot unlock their chains. Their freedom lies always on the horizon, yet they march endlessly in the opposite direction. The narcissist suffers from an unquenchable thirst. Every compliment is a drop of water, every achievement a brief oasis, but no spring can satisfy. The tragedy is that he believes glory will redeem him, yet glory only deepens the wound. What he cannot face is silence. Silence is his executioner, for in silence he confronts the void where love should have been. This is why he rages when ignored, why he collapses when forgotten. His entire empire is built to silence the terror of insignificance. The dark empath, however, suffers from another kind of hunger. His torment is not the absence of love, but the absence of trust in love. He feels deeply, yes, but he does not believe in purity of connection. He suspects every affection hides an agenda, every smile a blade. Thus, he decides to strike first, to master rather than be mastered. His empathy becomes armor, his kindness camouflage. The tragedy here is that he yearns for intimacy, yet he poisons every chance of it by manipulating those who draw close. He drinks from the cup of connection, but the wine is always laced with his own bitterness. This distinction is vital. The narcissist cannot receive love because he is too consumed with proving his worth. The dark empath cannot receive love because he does not trust it to exist without conditions. One builds walls of grandiosity, the other builds webs of suspicion. Both, in different ways, crucify themselves on illusions. But let us not merely pity them. We must understand how they wound others, for their strategies of survival often leave trails of devastation. The narcissist wounds by neglect and rage. When you love him, he devours you, and when you withdraw, he punishes you. He leaves you feeling invisible, as if your only role is to applaud his performance. The dark empath wounds by intimacy turned weapon. He leaves you doubting your own instincts, questioning your memories, wondering if you are the one who is cruel. He infects your perception, making you complicit in your own exploitation. If the narcissist burns you with fire, the dark empath dissolves you with acid. Yet notice something. Both thrive in relationships that enable their strategies. The narcissist seeks those willing to admire. The dark empath seeks those longing for understanding. And here, perhaps, lies the most uncomfortable truth. Victims are not merely chosen, they are unconsciously complicit. We are drawn to what reflects our own wounds. Those who crave admiration are vulnerable to narcissists. Those who crave deep empathy are vulnerable to dark empaths. Thus, our healing is not only escape from them, but recognition of what within us opened the door. I must pause here to deliver a call not of commerce but of philosophy. If my words strike you with both pain and clarity, do not merely listen and move on. Engage, reflect. Share this with others who wander in the same labyrinth, for ideas are not ornaments, they are weapons against illusion. To contemplate them together is to sharpen them into tools of freedom. In this way, philosophy itself becomes the act of subscribing to truth. Now let us turn to their methods of control more precisely. The narcissist uses grandiosity. His tools are exaggeration, entitlement, charisma. He tells stories where he is always the hero, the victim, or the genius. He inflates his past, promises his future, and expects the world to kneel before his narrative. When challenged, he either dismisses you as ignorant or attacks you as malicious. His control rests on intimidation and the illusion of superiority. The dark empath uses emotional mirroring. His tools are listening, validating, confiding. He gains your secrets by offering his own, though his own are often chosen for effect. He reads your wounds, amplifies them, and then offers himself as the healer. His control rests on subtle dependency. You begin to feel that without him, you cannot understand yourself. This dependency is his triumph, for once you are entangled, he no longer needs to demand power. It is freely given. Here I recall my friend Arthur Schopenhauer, who spoke of the will as the blind striving that governs existence. The narcissist represents will unrefined, raw, demanding, blind to others. The dark empath represents will refined into strategy, cloaked in intellect, but no less relentless. Both confirm Schopenhauer's insight, that beneath the surface of reason lies an insatiable drive, indifferent to morality. What differs is only the mask each wears, glory for one, empathy for the other. But let us pierce deeper. Why does society sometimes reward them? Because both fulfill fantasies. The narcissist embodies the fantasy of greatness. People follow him because they wish to touch glory. The dark empath embodies the fantasy of being understood. People trust him because they wish to believe someone finally sees them. Thus, the crowd applauds the narcissist, while the lonely soul clings to the dark empath. Both thrive because they mirror unmet desires. And yet their reign is unstable. The narcissist eventually alienates those around him, for his hunger is exhausting. The dark empath eventually entangles himself in his own webs, for manipulation corrodes authenticity. Neither builds lasting kingdoms, only transient empires that collapse under their own weight. Their tragedy is that in pursuing survival, they sabotage the very connection that could redeem them. What then is the antidote? It is not to eradicate admiration or empathy, for these are noble powers when balanced. The antidote is authenticity. The man who knows his worth does not need constant applause. The man who trusts love does not need to manipulate it. To cultivate authenticity is to step outside the theater of masks. It is to stand before the abyss without disguise, to declare, "I am flawed, I am finite, yet I am real." This courage, though rare, is the only force stronger than the games of narcissists and dark empaths alike. Consider also the role of awareness. When you learn to identify these masks, you disarm them. The narcissist loses power when you refuse to feed his hunger. The dark empath loses power when you question his intentions without surrendering to his charm. Awareness turns the stage into transparency, revealing the wires of manipulation. In that moment, you are no longer actor or audience. You are free. I see humanity caught in a cycle, worshiping the narcissist as leader, confiding in the dark empath as savior, then awakening disillusioned. Perhaps this cycle is necessary, for through suffering we learn discernment. Yet how much richer life would be if we recognized earlier, if we cultivated strength not to need false idols. To live without worshiping or being exploited, that is freedom of spirit. Let me now descend into the most dangerous terrain. What happens when these two minds collide, not in theory but in life? Imagine the narcissist and the dark empath bound together in a relationship, a friendship, even an alliance. The outcome is not harmony but war disguised as intimacy. For each seeks dominance, yet by different strategies. One shouts for worship, the other whispers for control. The battlefield is not external. It is the soul of the one caught between them, or worse, the soul they share when both tendencies exist within a single person. Yes, that is the most haunting possibility. The man who is both narcissist and dark empath. Consider what such a mind would become. He demands admiration yet also manipulates with empathy. He shines like the sun yet poisons like the serpent. He feeds on applause but also seduces with comfort. This figure does not merely wound, he conquers utterly. For he is adored and trusted, feared and loved all at once. The hybrid is the true tyrant of the heart, the one who enslaves not only by grandeur or by intimacy, but by both in seamless union. In such a man, deception reaches perfection. Why must I paint this nightmare? Because it teaches us the stakes. To recognize narcissism and dark empathy is not academic curiosity, it is survival. These figures populate our politics, our relationships, our communities. They build empires, families, and movements, all upon the fragile scaffolding of illusion. And when they collapse, they drag many with them. The history of humanity is littered with the wreckage of such souls who rose dazzling and fell catastrophic. But enough of external observation. Let us turn inward, for within each of us lurks the potential to become what we fear. Have you never gloried in praise a little too much? Have you never listened to another's sorrow while secretly calculating how it benefits you? These are seeds. Left unchecked, they can grow into thrones and webs. The danger is not only outside, it is within. To study the narcissist and the dark empath is to confront one's own shadow. Here, I must invoke again my friend Carl Jung, who taught that wholeness comes not from denying the shadow but from integrating it. The lesson is not to kill self-regard, nor to extinguish empathy, but to purify them. Self-regard without vanity becomes dignity. Empathy without manipulation becomes compassion. Only by embracing both and cleansing them of distortion do we prevent ourselves from becoming the very figures we fear. And how does one purify? By truth. The narcissist hides from truth, for truth reveals his smallness. The dark empath twists truth, for truth exposes his malice. But the man of authenticity embraces truth, however bitter, however humiliating. He says, I am not great, but I am real. I am not saintly, but I am honest. In truth lies liberation. Without truth, admiration corrupts and empathy deceives. With truth, admiration becomes encouragement and empathy becomes love. Let me illustrate with an example from psychology. Research shows that secure attachment in childhood breeds adults who neither overinflate themselves nor distrust affection. They neither demand applause nor weaponize intimacy. They live with balance. This suggests that the antidote to both narcissism and dark empathy is not extreme independence, but healthy connection. Connections where love is not conditional, where trust is not exploited. Thus, the roots of these distortions lie not in human nature itself, but in fractured development, in wounds unhealed. What philosophy intuits, science confirms. And yet, awareness alone is insufficient. One must cultivate strength. To resist the narcissist, you must not be seduced by glory. To resist the dark empath, you must not be intoxicated by validation. Both require inner solidity. The capacity to stand alone without applause, the courage to endure loneliness without surrendering to counterfeit intimacy. Only the man who needs neither idol nor savior can walk unenslaved among them. I return here to my own lifelong conviction, that the task of philosophy is not comfort but liberation. To tear away illusions, to strip the soul bare, to demand that one stand naked before existence, this is the philosopher's gift. When you recognize the narcissist, when you unmask the dark empath, you engage in philosophy's deepest act, unveiling. And in unveiling, you free not only yourself but also those who would otherwise remain trapped in invisible chains. But let me not romanticize too much. There is no guarantee of victory. Many fall under these figures' sway, even the strongest minds, for they appeal not to weakness alone but to longing, the longing for greatness, for understanding, for connection. To guard against them is to guard against the parts of ourselves that crave too desperately. We must learn to endure emptiness without filling it with illusions. We must learn to seek companionship without surrendering sovereignty. This discipline is rare, but without it, the theater of deception never closes. I am reminded of my friend Dostoevsky, who revealed in his characters how love can turn into cruelty, how faith can turn into tyranny. He understood that the same forces that uplift man also destroy him when corrupted. The narcissist and the dark empath are not exceptions. They are amplifications of what Dostoevsky saw, the dual capacity of the human heart for devotion and manipulation, for glory and despair. To study them is to study ourselves. And now the final reflection. What survives after the masks crumble? When the narcissist loses his admirers, when the dark empath loses his victims, what remains? The answer is haunting emptiness. Beneath the mask of grandeur lies despair. Beneath the mask of empathy lies loneliness. Both feared insignificance, both feared betrayal, and both, in their strategies to avoid it, guaranteed it. The narcissist dies unadmired, the dark empath dies unloved. Their victory is temporary, their tragedy eternal. What then remains for us who observe from the outside? The lesson: to live without masks, to accept imperfection without vanity, to extend empathy without calculation, to stand before one another as real and unarmored. This is the true difference, not between narcissist and dark empath, but between illusion and authenticity. One imprisons, the other liberates. So I conclude, inside the mind of the narcissist you will find a child still crying for the mirror. Inside the mind of the dark empath you will find a strategist afraid of trust. Inside the authentic man you will find neither hunger for applause nor thirst for manipulation, but a quiet strength, a dignity that neither worships nor deceives. And though such men are rare, they are the ones who truly transform the world, not by illusions, but by presence.